Today's voiceover talent is more than just a pretty voice. Today's voiceover talent has to be a boss, a VO boss. Set yourself up with business owner strategies and success with your host, Ganguzza, along with some of the strongest voices in our industry. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss.
Hey everybody, welcome to the B.O.S. podcast. I'm Ann Ganguzza, along with my lovely co-host, Gabby Nistico. Hey Gabby.
Hey Ann.
Today we have an extra special guest here with us, Mr. Roy Yokelson. Uncle Roy, hey, how are you?
How's everybody doing? I'm doing good.
So excited to have you here on the show.
I know you are. I think Uncle Roy got you a little verklempt there for a second. You were having some trouble.
That's because she knows I'm holding her rye bagel.
That's right.
Oh,
So that's why she gets crazy.
Uncle Roy,
be still my heart.
Yes, known not only for his audio prowess, but for bagels.
How's that for branding?
Absolutely. So, Roy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we want to talk about home studios because I personally think, I know when I started off, I didn't have a clue about sound or my studios or what I should do to, how I could set it up or how I could, get the best sound. And I'm so excited that we have you here today so that we can ask you all those really pertinent, important questions that our listeners are going to find so valuable.
Even for auditions, when you send in an audition, they're listening for two things. Obviously, your performance. Secondly, and maybe even more importantly, what does your audio quality sound like? It really has to sound like a final, or since in this new world of home studios, most times when they book you even for a final, it's got to come out of your home studio, and that has to be broadcast quality. The first important thing is the environment. It has to be, yes, it has to be should be a quiet room, but it has to be a room that doesn't have a sound of a room to it. It's not reverberant. So the room has to be treated, whether it's with Auralex or packing blankets or clear sonic panels or Porta Booth. If you can't afford a whisper room when you're just getting started, one of those other products, or hire somebody like myself to, if you're local to the New York, New Jersey area, I would come to your space with some of these products. I'm about to do that tomorrow. And try out, find the right spot in the room, because corners are no good, the bass frequencies build up, and it sounds boomy and roomy, and you really want it to sound as good. You don't have to go crazy you don't have to spend $1,000 on a microphone. You can get a good quality for around $300, and your interface could cost $80. You don't have to spend $2,500 on a on a universal audio tube mic preamp or anything, especially when you're getting started. Some people, well, I'm a professional voiceover now, I should have all these things, and they spend all this money, and you just want a good clean sound.
So I think, Roy, you actually hit the nail on the head with a couple of things in what you just said, especially because it's all about what happens when you're first starting out. And from a business standpoint, it's about justification. And beginners can't really justify the big, expensive, heavy-hitting equipment yet because they probably haven't had many jobs, if any, to be able to support that. So what are some of the brand names, some of the manufacturers? I mean, you just referenced, a $300 mic. What is that? What are the things that you like?
I like the Rode NT1, not the 1A. The 1A is a little thin sounding, but that's the one that they're pushing, and that's the one that's on sale, and they bundle it with an interface and all that. If you can avoid the 1A. Now, some people sound okay on it. Andy Danish accidentally bought a 1A because he thought that's what I said.
I had a 1A for years.
Yeah.
Actually.
No, sir. Some people sound fine on it. Dan Friedman and I agree that it's not our favorite, but Andy was, I said to Andy, just record a sample, send it over, and it sounded fine. So for his, he doesn't have a big, deep, he doesn't have those low frequencies that might get lost in a 1A. So I think the Rode is under $300. The interface I recommend is the Steinberg UR12, which is like a solo. The Scarlett Solo is the new generation of Scarletts. The original Scarletts, I hear them failing all over the place. People send me audio, and it's like, well, your interface is gone. So maybe they got it right now, but I say go Steinberg.
I agree.
I have the UR22, which
Me
is
too.
the stereo version, because I also transfer cassettes and DATs and quarter-inch tape and all that other stuff that has to go through the interface. But if you have, when you're first starting out, you don't have to go for the brand name like Neumann. Neumann makes a great mic, a 102. It's $700. Do you need a $700 mic? If you're just doing pay-to-play auditions, you just need to sound like you.
Yeah.
Another word of advice, don't buy any of those curved baffles that go behind the mic to think that they absorb sound or they will reflect, they'll catch the reflections. They don't work. Save your money.
I actually owned one of those, and I did not like it. I
Neither
have to agree with you there.
did I. And
Yeah.
and they're obstructive, and they get in the way of your
And they're
copy.
gangly.
And yeah.
And they made my
That's
mic
great.
stand fall over.
They look kind of cool, but they will make that fun because they're heavy. They're heavy.
Yes.
So when you pick it up, you think you've got a really good piece of equipment, and it looks cool, but it does nothing. And they're probably like $100 or maybe more.
Yeah.
To save your money. You need a pop filter. Sometimes some people need 2 pop filters,
Yeah, right.
like me.
Roy, can you talk a little? Can you talk a little bit about your environment? You mentioned the environment, and being where to put your studio, where a good place for your studio would be.
The typical answer might be a walk-in closet, and leave clothes in there because they'll absorb the reflections. But if the closet's too small, you can't use your body language enough. You'll be crashing into the wall, and you really need to use body language for your performance. I am in a bedroom. Of course, I have a whisper room. I'm not in there, but this room happens to sound pretty good. If you have a room, when you're in the room, just listen, just sit there quietly and just listen. What do I hear? Do you hear traffic? Do you hear a ceiling fan? Do you hear the refrigerator? So those are the external noises that you want to eliminate first. And then speak in the room and listen. Can you hear that the room has a sound to it? Can you hear that your voice comes back, it bounces off the wall? And the worst culprit is the ceiling. The sound goes up to the ceiling and bounces back down. So when you're doing treatment, even if you put up packing blankets or Oralex or any of those other products, you could float a cloud like either a clear sonic panel or put a packing blanket as a top or cover your ceiling. I know it's not always easy to do. You're in an apartment, they won't let you put hooks in the walls and stuff. You really just you do your best you can. Try different spots in the room and record, 2 sentences, and then move the mic and try a different spot and try stay away from corners, unless you're going to treat the corners with bass traps and things.
How would you describe broadcast quality for those who are non-technical and really don't know what that means? Because that's a question we see a lot from beginners. I need to have broadcast quality audio. What is that?
Well, the way to evaluate broadcast quality audio is to wear headphones. I don't recommend recording with headphones on because if it's too soft, you'll project too much. If it's too loud, you'll hold back. But you can try and find the spot in the room that's less reverberant, maybe, by wearing headphones and talking and moving. So the bottom line is record yourself, listen back with headphones. You can't tell broadcast quality on your laptop speakers or on your computer speakers. Put headphones on. Does it sound like it's coming out of your radio or out of your TV? Or do you hear this echoey sound? That the broadcast quality just means good levels, which is another thing we can talk about. Once you try to record, between -6 and -3, I would say, and then after all your editing is done, you're going to normalize to -3, which is an industry standard. And I get a lot of files in that the level is just way low. They record soft, and they say, well, when I turn up my gain, the noise comes up. Well, everything comes
Right.
up. It doesn't make more noise. It just means you got to find out where that noise is, and you have to eliminate it, minimize it. So as long as you have a good level, -3, I mean, there's a whole, we can go into a whole lot of other stuff with levels and
I was just going to ask you about that, because some people I know normalize to 0. What's the difference? And I know that some of our listeners may or may not know, why is it that you normalize in the first place? I know that's a very basic question, but I want to hear it from you, Roy, from the professional.
Normalize means take the loudest part of your recording and make it as loud as it could. If you're normalizing to 0 or 100%, it takes the loudest thing and makes it 0 or 100. I do normalize to 100, but that's so I can see certain peaks that may be atypical of the rest of the file. For instance, if you coughed or snapped your finger or clapped your hand or something and normalized, that would be the thing that normalizes to 100. So you need the meat, you need the actual recording, and sometimes a plosive when you normalize. Sometimes those things, the plosives can normalize to 100, or an S, if you're very sibilant, some of those S's, it's incredible. You normalize to 100, and it's the S's or it's the plosives that are normalizing. So then you would put a high pass filter on, or use a de-esser, or bring those S's down, or you got the wrong microphone for your sibilant issue. I used to submit auditions normalized to 80%, which is just slightly higher than -3. I think if you normalize to 0 and somebody opens that up in an editor, it might scare them. But here's the other thing about normalizing to 0. If it's just a voice file and there's going to be nothing else, there's going to be no music, no effects, no nothing, no sound bites, okay, normalize it to 0. Industry standard is still -3. If somebody's going to want to put music under there, if the voice file is too loud, and then you're going to add music, that's going to make the overall thing too loud. Think about the guy who's going to receive your audio. I always prepare for the next guy. How would I want to receive it from somebody? So if I got this loud voice file and I got to put music against it, and I know I'm going to have to bring it down anyway, so I bring it down. I just send it at -3. Nobody would ever complain. But if you're just sending an audition, yes, you can normalize it to 0, and it'll be the loudest thing they've ever heard.
I'm forever telling new folks to think about their producer, think about that end user of your audio, because really it's all about them.
Yeah, let me give you another tip, because most of the clients, and it could be because they had a bad experience, they say, we just want raw audio, don't do anything to it. There's 2 things you can do. One we mentioned already, normalize. You can normalize to -3. Nobody's going to say, hey, wait a minute, we told you not to process. Normalizing is, yes, it's processing, but it's not changing. It's just bringing the level up to industry standard. The other thing you can do is put what we call a high-pass filter, which filters out low, very low rumble. You know, your house is attached to the earth, and the earth is vibrating and spinning, and so you can, and it will lower your noise floor. You know, which is, and you can see it too when you're just recording nothing. You can see there's little waves going on. But when you put the high pass filter on, I put the high pass filter on first, because that'll catch the very serious plosives, and then when you normalize, those won't be an issue. So I say high pass filter first, and then normalize to whatever again, if it's a final, send it out at -3. If it's an audition, yes, you can send it at 0, and they certainly won't have to turn up their speakers to hear you.
That makes so much sense.
Louder's better, right?
It does.
Better.
Yeah, I had a lot of construction going on, excuse me, around my studio in the past couple of years, and I know that I had to put that high-pass filter on in order to, because there would be like semis that would be a mile away traveling down the road, and it would actually come through in my recording, and so I had a high-pass filter that would get rid of all that. It worked like a charm.
Sorry.
I used to do that until my husband found out that we were treating for ground noise, and then built a subfloor with neoprene. And
Jeez. Wow.
And took care of all that. So beautiful thing. But high pass definitely gets the job done. And eventually, if you have the space and the mechanics for it, sure, build a subfloor, raise your studio up a little.
Now all the beginners are going to run out and buy neoprene and green glue and all those things. Okay, we're just getting started. Yeah, it's good stuff. We're just getting started. So I don't
think our podcast is long enough.
No.
Well, there could be a part 2. You never
That's
know.
right.
So this
Uncle
is
Roy,
part 1. Yes,
it's definitely part 1. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
We will absolutely have you back. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about you, communicate with you, all that good stuff?
You can go to antlandproductions.com, and don't forget to visit the Killer Demos page, and especially the Fun page, which has a really cool outtake montage with some celebrity voices that I've recorded, and pictures of me and celebrities and stuff. And my shameful email address is antlandprods, P-R-O-D-S, shamefully at AOL.com. Hey, it works.
not the
it's
first.
not broken. It's
No,
not broken.
you and Rodney Salisbury,
Exactly.
man. Yeah.
Because we're old school. We're the veterans.
I like
We're the
it.
veterans of the industry.
Don't fix it if it ain't broke. Well, Roy, it's been a wealth of information already in just part 1 of this podcast, and we thank you so much for spending time with us.
I'm honored to be here.
I'd like to give a big thanks to our sponsor, ipDTL. So if you guys are all jealous at the quality of the sound that you're hearing right now, that's because we are recording this with ipDTL. And for more information, you can find out more information at their website at ipDTL.com.
Absolutely. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. And we want to make sure that you go to B.O.S.s.com, where you can get exclusive information about upcoming events, offers, promotions, and just find out more about me and Ann.
Because you guys are the boss.
That's right. Oh, the VO boss.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, so much. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page, too, at VO Boss Podcast, and our Twitter at VO_boss.
And my Facebook, Antland Productions, is on Facebook, and Roy B. Yokelson on Facebook.
Thanks so much, Roy.
Okay,
Thanks,
go have
Roy.
a bagel now.
Thanks, guys, for
Yay!
listening. We'll catch you guys next week with another episode of the VO Boss Podcast.
I can't
Bagels
wait.
for everybody.
Bagels, bye.
Join us next week for another edition of B.O.S. with your hosts, Ann Ganguzza and Gabby Nisterko. All rights reserved. Ann Ganguzza voice talent in association with 3 Moon Media. Redistribution with permission. Coast-to-coast connectivity via ipDTL.